you can feel the buzz in the group at the moment that things are finally coming together for us. And even last week we noticed in training, when you're talking about selection for a squad, and the places that are up for grabs, there's been that noticeable edge to us. So it's exactly what you want from the players.
Now, have you had the opportunity to turn a disadvantage in terms of not playing matches to an advantage, in the sense that you've spent now an awful lot of time together? Probably you're probably the best prepared Ireland team going into what is a shortened Six Nations Championship.
Well, I think we're going to find out on Saturday exactly where we're at, to be honest. We definitely feel like we are the best prepared we've been, in terms of our training quality and our internal matches. If we look at where we've come from the last season, we know we've definitely upped our standards. But as I've said before, you never really do know until you're in the heat of a test match. So I would like to think we're a confident group going into Saturday's match, and I guess we'll get our answers after that 80 minutes.
And just a final question from me, is that a slight advantage for Wales, given the fact that they had a hit out last weekend, they played their opening game, so they'll have that match sharpness. It's important that you try and get up to the pitch of the game pretty quickly.
It's huge for us. I think that's what we're speaking about this weekend, is that we've got to start well and build a platform that allows us to play our game. And yeah, Wales have definitely had that match situation against France, obviously, but we probably look at it in a slightly different way, in that we've been able to see that game and analyse them where maybe there's a bit of unknown to what we will bring. So we're trying to bring that edge come Saturday.
Cheers, mate. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Hi, Adam. How's it going? Just on your team selection, no Amee-Leigh, Murphy-Crowe, and obviously Eve Higgins making her debut.
Yeah, Eve's been fantastic through training at the moment. We've asked for these players that haven't played for us yet to come into training and put their hand up, and she's one that certainly grabbed the ball by the horns, I suppose, and really stood out and done well. So she earns her spot there. Amee-Leigh is still a work in progress for us at the moment. We think that no doubt she has the skills. We've seen it on the World Series 7 circuit, and there's just a few adjustments to the 15-a-side game that she's still learning at the moment. So all in due time, I'm sure we'll see her in.
What is success to you in the Six Nations?
Oh, look, we're going after wins. There's no doubt about it. We've spoken about being prepared. We've been together for a long time. I think once we get stuck into this first game on Saturday, we will have a good idea of where we're at and what we need to continue to work on. But we certainly want to go out there and win games.
Adam, hi, how's it going? I suppose, with that sort of in mind, where do you think your squad is now, and given what you've already said about preparation and so on, where do you think your squad is now compared with maybe 1 or 2 years ago? I mean, like you've done your best to try and bring through an awful lot of young players, which will probably stand to this squad in time to come. But where do you think the squad are now?
Yeah, I think we've definitely brought in a cohort of younger players, and I suppose what we've got at the moment is we feel we've got a better appreciation for the way the game goes, and we've been trying to replicate that through training. That the biggest thing for us is the game understanding and the rugby IQ of these players. I think we know we've got super athletes here, all really talented, but it's about how we manage the game, and obviously in test match rugby you won't have it all your own way, and so it's about sticking out the process, I suppose, of how we can build ourselves into the game, and then we weather the storm of opposition teams, because every team will have that purple patch we speak about. So I'd like to think that come Saturday we have that greater understanding, and we've got a pretty settled squad here. I think even of the 35, 36 players that we have involved, they've all now been together with me, certainly for the last couple of seasons. So I think there's a genuine appreciation of how we want to play the game and how we will put teams under pressure and also cope with the pressure coming back on us. Good.
Just looking at your bench, I suppose outside Laura Feely, like there's only a few uncapped players, a few maybe 1 or 2 caps, but I mean you must be confident that if it does come to the crunch and they can come on, that they can make a difference all the same.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we're looking at our bench at the moment. What we've got there is players that have really earned that selection. We look at Brittany Hogan, obviously, who only has her first cap last October, but she's trained fantastically well. The other one that I think has put her hand up is Hannah O'Connor. If you look back a couple of years, she was in the Interprovincial Series, the Leinster Player of the Season. She had top point scorer, she was goal kicking. She's brought that into camp and really earned her spot as well. And then I suppose I look at some of the backs there with Amee-Leigh and Stacey Flood, who have World Series Sevens experience, and we know they have an X factor to them, and I think that they can really add to what we're trying to do and change a game for us when they get their opportunity.
And Emer Considine, of course, come back in after, obviously she was very unfortunate to miss out the game against Italy last October. Obviously good to have her back in, given, I suppose, she was making such a big impact at fullback.
Yeah, she's so talented, and I think, again, she's a similar one to someone like Amee-Leigh. I think the more she's been with us, the more she's got an understanding of the 15-a-side game, and I think hopefully we see that on Saturday where she really backs herself and shows all those multi-skilled areas of the game that she has. She's really good in the air, she's good handling, a great open field runner, and so hopefully we can get the ball in her hands and give her those opportunities.
It's a great one, thank you.
No worries.
If I could come back in there, Adam, I was trying to ask you there, just in terms of the late start to the Six Nations and the new format that it is now. What's your overall view on that in terms of keeping that going forward and sort of keeping the Women's Six Nations as a standalone event at this time of year?
Yeah, look, I think that it could be a positive for the women's game. I think over the last couple of seasons we've seen how much it's grown, and you look at even domestic rugby, there's huge growth in the area of minis and girls and women's rugby. So something like this, having it standalone, is brilliant. I think, even this time of year with the weather, it should really promote certainly the game we want to play, and I think it's a good thing. I would always push that we keep playing every nation, and that we are after as many test matches as possible. So I think while we understand why the format had to be changed this year, I think for us we'd certainly like to keep driving that we would play every nation as we've done before.
Hi Adam, maybe just to follow up on that question, because the match, obviously it's in a standalone window now when it's on a prime time slot, and unfortunately it clashes with the Leinster match as well. But what would you say maybe to the casual viewer who's going to come along and see Six Nations women's rugby for the first time? What can they expect?
I think they expect a good game of rugby. It's international rugby, no matter which way you look at it. Men's, women's, under 20s, it's international rugby. And I suppose from our side of the things, we prepare as any international team would. We do our due diligence with our analysis and making sure that we understand what we're trying to do in the game. So again, I think we're looking to give them a show and put on a decent performance. So again, I don't separate the rugby too much between men's, women's, 20s, 18s. For me, it's international rugby, and we're going out to perform as well as we can.
All right, lads.